Meiji was an extremely significant personality to the period of late feudal Japan because of his many impacts he and his government had made that rapidly modernized Japan. This period, known as the Meiji Restoration, began in 1868 when Meiji took power as the emperor and lasted until 1912 when he died from various diseases such as diabetes, gonenteritis, and uremia. Before Emperor Meiji took power, the Tokugawa shogunate was in full effect, which effectively secluded Japan and kept the territories ununified. These territories were ruled by semi-independent feudal lords called shoguns. Often these territories would war with each other as there was a constant power struggle for land and resources. This was an extremely violent time in Japanese history as nobody was safe, with many accounts of shogun trying to overthrow the emperor with many surprise attacks. Japan was pre-industrial due to the Tokugawa seclusion, while 90% of the population were involved in agriculture. These people were born into a social class which was determined by the feudal system. They were forced to do jobs that were within their social class. There was little to no technological development, and there was no national army. And the armies that the shoguns had were very weak, still using swords 500 years after the inventions of gun. However, on the 8th of July, 1853, Commodore Matthew Perry arrived in Tokyo Harbor and effectively ended the Tokugawa seclusion, as Columbia University would state. This gave Japan the option to willingly trade with America or be forced to trade with America through war. Sensei Maru in 1862 traveled to China to understand the full effect of going to war with Western powers, because of the act of trying to stay very national and secluded. Because China refused to trade with European powers while in an attempt to stay secluded, war was declared in 1839 to 1842 and in 1856 to 1860, and it would be known as the Opium Wars. Inevitably, China was defeated due to the superior European technology and were forced to trade with Europe. This had drastic consequences for China as the majority of the population fell into poverty. In 1868, Mushuhito, a young Japanese shogun, led a civil war against the last of the Tokugawa emperors and won. He was now known as Emperor Meiji. While many sources have different opinions on how important Emperor Meiji actually was, like the International Communist League, who say that things weren't done by him but by his advisors, and the country wasn't heavily industrialized as a large majority of the population was still in agriculture. However, Another historian from the Columbia University states that it was only because of him that Japan became a superpower it is known as today. The truth is that without Emperor Meiji, the modernization of Japan wouldn't have occurred. Emperor Meiji set a course of events that changed Japan's military, social order, and industrialization. Sensei Maru had become an advisor under Emperor Meiji and helped him to open borders for trade for more advanced countries. They were crucial for Japan, as just like China, the population was about to go into poverty. But Meiji's trade gave Japan access to more food and better technologies to make sure that there required less people in agriculture. Meiji's trade with America gave them guns, which were used to form a new Japanese national military under the motto of enrich the country and strengthen the military. The people were given all the rights that were originally meant for the samurai only, while some of the samurai's rights were taken away, like the right to hold a sword to show someone's prestige. Under Emperor Meiji's rule, the social order was completely changed from a feudal system to an egalitarian society. However, the samurai weren't a fan of this new change. This started a civil war with the new emperor in Japan in July 29th of 1877, which lasted until September of 1877. This was quickly crushed by the Emperor Meiji and his new army. This was an official end to the samurai rule, as the majority of them were killed, and the samurais who weren't part of the civil war joined the industrialization process. Because Emperor Meiji made everyone equal, he influenced the population to do jobs involving factories, the military, and technological development. This was a huge change, and the effect of this is still debated because of how significant it is. The International Communist League state that it is because that this change wasn't as large as other historians lead it to be. It states that after Emperor Meiji's death, 45% of the population was still involved in agriculture. However, research shows that this is inaccurate, as the majority of the population changed to business and factory work. With the new army, Emperor Meiji declared war on China on the 1st of August 1894, which would be known as the First Sino-Japanese War. This was due to disputes over the interest and influence of Korea. This involved many bloody battles, but with superior Japanese tactics, they won on the 17th of April 1895. The Japanese had taken Taiwan as their own. In 1904, Emperor Meiji, looking to kick a hornet's nest, as many historians would describe it, declared war on Russia. The Japanese successfully destroyed the Russian Navy in the Battle of Tsushima, destroying 8 battleships. Japan won in 1905 and took control of the northern island called Sakhalin, but due to Theodore Roosevelt's involvement, they were only allowed half of the island to settle disputes between the nations. These two wars showed the European powers how strong Japan was as a nation. They secured their position as part of the top 5 most powerful nations in the world among Britain, America, Italy, and Germany. However, some of Emperor Meiji's achievements are debated by historians to whether it was Emperor Meiji or his advisors. The International Communist Leagues, who say that it wasn't as good as the people thought, and the Mad Monarchist, who say that it wasn't personally directed by him, and that his advisors did all the work. While the Columbia University states that it was only due to him that these events could have occurred, but they were still influenced by his advisors. This is why Emperor Meiji is so significant to the period in late feudal Tokugawa shogunate period.